Let me tell you something it took me most of my life to learn. You see, we're handed this script the day we're born, a script written by everyone but ourselves. It says family is everything, that blood is a bond you never question, a thread you never dare to sever. For most of my years, I followed that script. I recited my lines perfectly.
I showed up when the curtain rose at every holiday, every crisis, every performance of togetherness. I forgave my cues on command. I made excuses in my heart for people who never made room in theirs for me. It wasn't one thunderclap moment that changed things. Now it was quieter than that. It was the slow, steady erosion of my own spirit, like water wearing down stone, drip by drip by drip. Year after year, I was the steady one, the reliable one, the one who could be counted on to carry the weight while others walked ahead, unburdened. I was the listener to every problem, the keeper of every secret, the safe harbor in every storm they created. I confused obligation with love and loyalty with silence. I thought that by holding everything together, I might finally be seen, that if I was just good enough, patient enough, kind enough, the ledger would balance, the love would flow back. But a ledger only works if both parties are keeping score, and I was the only one writing in the book. The music swells slightly, a note of melancholy. I remember the small things, the phone calls that only ever came when something was needed, the way a conversation would pivot from my news to their drama before I'd even finished a sentence. The empty chair at my kitchen table after my wife passed, when the silence of the house was so loud and their noise was so absent. I'd hear a car door outside and my heart would foolishly lift for a second, thinking, maybe. But it was never them. It was just the neighbor or the mail truck. I'd packed away my own grief to tend to theirs for so long that when mine finally arrived, a towering, solitary thing, there was no one there to help me shoulder it. You start to notice a certain geography to these relationships. You are always the landscape they travel through. You are the terrain, reliable, solid, expected to be there, while they are the travelers, passing through, taking what they need from the view and moving on. They never stop to wonder if the landscape is tired, if the soil is depleted, if a drought is setting in. There comes a morning when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, shaving a face that has grown old in the service of this peacekeeping mission, and you don't recognize the tired eyes staring back. They're the eyes of a stranger, the eyes of someone who has been pouring from an empty cup for a lifetime, waiting for someone to finally notice and offer a refill. That morning, the script in your hands feels not just tired, but written in a language you no longer speak. Piano melody shifts, becomes more resolved, clearer. That's when you have to make a choice. Do I keep reading from this tired, painful script, or do I have the courage to write my own lines? My moment of clarity didn't come with shouting. It came with a quiet click like a door locking inside my chest. It was at a birthday dinner, not mine, of course. I sat there watching the performance of family, the toasts that rang hollow to my ears, the laughter that seemed to carefully skirt around any real feeling. And in that moment, I saw it not as a celebration, but as a ritual. A play we were all putting on, and I was the only one who had forgotten I was acting. So I chose to write my own lines. It wasn't an act of anger, though heaven knows I'd felt plenty. It wasn't a dramatic scene, no slammed doors or final curses. It was something far more profound. It was an act of tenderness toward myself. It was the simple, terrifying act of laying down the weight. It was saying softly to my own reflection, "You have done enough. You have been enough. It is time to rest." I finally understood that peace isn't something you find in the noise of other people's demands. It's what blooms in the quiet space you create when you stop listening to those demands. It's in the first morning you wake up and your first thought isn't a dread of what might be asked of you. It's in the deep, uncluttered breath you take when the phone rings and you know it's a friend, not a summons. The world might call it cutting ties, a cold word that, sharp, final. I call it something else. I call it coming home to myself, to the man I was before I learned to fold himself into smaller and smaller shapes to fit in their narrative. It was the beginning of a long, slow conversation with a person I had neglected for nearly 70 decades, me. Music softens to a single lingering piano line. And at this stage of life, with the sun sitting lower in the afternoon sky, casting longer, gentler shadows, I've learned that the most sacred thing you can protect is not a name or a legacy or a story of familial duty. It's your own inner quiet, the sanctity of your own spirit. Some relationships are not bridges to be crossed, but weights to be laid down, gently, with respect for the journey they represented, but with certainty that the journey is over. And when you lay 'em down, you stand up lighter, you breathe deeper, the horizon looks different, not emptier, but clearer. You begin again, not as a brother or a sister defined by someone else's needs, but as a person, whole, responsible only for the light you choose to let in. That's not a betrayal of family. That's the final, kindest gift you can give to the person you were always meant to be. The gift of a peaceful room. The gift of a quiet mind. The gift of days that are yours alone to fill, not with obligation, but with presence. So if you're hearing this and you recognize that tired stranger in your own mirror, know this. The pen has been in your hand all along. The script is yours to rewrite. And the next line, the very next line, can simply be a breath, a deep, unhurried breath of peace. And then the line after that is yours to write too.